was informal. I loved it.
Jerry, thank you for giving me the time to sit down and chat and talk about life and NTID and where your path has led you. But first, to start, I really just want to know more about your family. You were born deaf, or how did that happen? What family do you come from?
I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm one of 7 children. And I'm number 5 out of 7. So a wonderful family, Irish Catholic family, very supportive. In those days, we were not exposed to sign language, so that wasn't an option. So I went for hearing aids. I had a progressive loss. I was probably born hard of hearing and had a progressive loss. So every year it was adjusting to a new experience. So by the time I arrived at high school, I honestly was frustrated because I was missing so much. So I read my way through high school like many of us who before 94, 142, before 504, and before federal laws. You made it through, you struggled. So in high school, I was ready for a change to go out of state. I was very fortunate. My VR counselor told me about NTID. And really, it began with I knew nothing. And I was taking my driver's test when I was 16. And boys think they can drive well, right? Well, you're not supposed to pass when you're 16 and you're a boy. Missouri really intentionally liked to, fail boy drivers. But I barely passed. I'm barely 1 point. And the evaluator sat in the car and looked at me and he said, I have a deaf brother. And you know about this college called NTID? He was the first one that told me, and I went, no, I didn't. And he told me about VR, so vocational rehabilitation. And I said, oh, so then I connected with VR and the possibility of coming to New York to NTID began as a possibility. Now you have to remember in those days, really not everyone encouraged learning signs. So I remember my VR counselor said to me, when you go there, be careful not to learn too much sign language because your voice will be gone. So I arrived 50 years ago on this campus in 74. Scared about losing my voice, scared of, we didn't call it deaf culture in those days, we called it a subculture. And, my first few weeks here were not necessarily pleasant. They were a little overwhelming. We had about 300 freshmen. We were all together, and there wasn't a lot of information shared about deaf culture, so many of us, I kind of hid in the library most of SVP. And then over time, during my freshman year, became exposed to ASL, deaf culture, made friends, got involved in the community. I just remember the first year, the first summer, I wanted to quit every day and go home. And my counselor, my academic advisor, Betty Tony, she sat down and she negotiated every day for me to stay for another week and, give myself time to adjust. And it was people like Betty Tony, who really encouraged me. And then also people like Butch Mothersell. I remember again, I wanted to leave. I didn't feel I belonged here. It was more hard of hearing. I wasn't signing yet, so I didn't fit in. So I wanted to leave. I said, this isn't home for me. It doesn't feel comfortable. Now remember, I went to a very small private Catholic high school where everyone knew everyone, and generally speaking, people were sensitive. And then you moved to New York at a big cultural change. Butch Mothersell had 4 kids at his home, including an adopted deaf daughter. And he knew that I was going to leave. he knew. He said, he's not going to fit. He invited me to his house overnight. He invited me several times to his home. So it was people like Mother Cell, Earl, Betty Tony, Liz O'Brien, a lot of the old-timers, even Bill Castle, who made sure that I felt welcomed. Became good friends with Tom Penny. Tom was president of NSC, ASL, deaf family from Ohio, had twin brothers here. And it was really funny. We got together and started talking. And, he ran for president of NSC. I was vice president and really got involved in the community and really enjoyed my experiences here for 3 or 4 years. So I was an RA. I was involved in many things. And so the next 3 years were just really wonderful, very positive. Great experience. The community here is just wonderful. It takes some time to adjust to, but that was in the past when we didn't do a good job, I think, of orientating everyone and welcoming everyone. And I think also here at RIT, at that time, I don't think deafness at NTID is integrated into the university. So we were kind of over here. They were over there. And that's changed tremendously now with the integration. And so just some things. Every Friday night, the only game in town was Caption Movies. Everyone went to Caption Movies. And then at the intermission of the movies, we would have our NSC meeting and discuss problems. But it was a small community that cared about one another. And because there wasn't the internet yet, there wasn't relay services. Well, there were voluntary relay services, but there were not BRS. There were not many things. NSC was the big game in town. Everyone came to the meetings and everyone supported one another. So it was a beautiful community experience. One of the things I'm very proud of is my involvement in what we would call a senior project, and that was the research that led to the establishment of SAISD. I had a chance to work with a professor in psychology, Mort Isaacs, who was famous for being very supportive of deaf students. A colleague of mine, Donna Martin, another social work major, she and I did the first research with Dr. Isaacs that identified that alcohol use by deaf people was very similar to hearing people. That's common sense, but at the time we had no evidence. So there were no services for deaf people with alcohol problems. So we were able to make a report to New York State that led to the funding and the establishment of SAISD back in about 1980. So that was a wonderful experience of a student research project that led to a real difference for the community. And I'm very proud SAISD is celebrating its anniversary right now. And many years later, it's still serving the deaf community and providing substance abuse and addiction services that are critically needed for deaf and hard of hearing people.
So when you were a student here in the social work program, in my time in the 80s, it was a big program. Was it the same in your time too? A lot of deaf and hearing students together?
Initially, no. There was some resistance to deaf students in the social work program. There was it was a new profession for deaf people. So the social work faculty, initially, some of them were very resistant. And it took time to educate and to integrate and to help everyone feel comfortable. It got to a point where, the social work program was, at first it was like 10% of all the students were deaf. Then it was 20, then it was 30, and by the end it was close to 50%. And it was really wonderful because many of the folks, both deaf and hearing in those classes now, are leaders in the deaf community. They're leaders in the interpreting field. And they look back, and if you look around the country now, you still find that many of the national leaders in the deaf and hard of hearing community come from that program, that social work program. So we're very proud of the history of that program and the graduates who have made a difference in serving the deaf community. It was very close. We were all, we were in classes together. We learned from one another. So when I came back 12 years later, I had gone and left, graduated, went back to Missouri. Why? I had a scholarship to get my master's degree. And I wanted to go back home where family was. And it was, again, a culture shock to go to a different university where, after you have the experience here of a rich environment where everyone is communicating, signing and communicating, and you're immersed in that experience, and then going back to what I call the real world again, and being the only deaf student at a university. And remember, again, interpreting services were not available. I had to fight for them. So, and socially, it wasn't the same. You have such a rich social experience here. Then you go back to the real world and you realize, ooh, how wonderful it was. So, I did that for my graduate degree. I finished. And then I was required, I wanted to stay in St. Louis. I went to Columbia, which is in between St. Louis and Kansas City. That's where I had my studies. When it came time for an internship, I wanted to go back to St. Louis and work with the deaf community. My supervisor said, no, you go to Kansas City. I don't want to go to Kansas City. You go into Kansas City, period. So I moved to Kansas City, and I was broke. I had no money. I mean, when you're a graduate student, you got loans. And so I got a job as a dorm supervisor overnight at the Kansas School for the Deaf. So I would be up all night, and then I'd be going to school to finish my master's degree and doing an internship. And that internship helped lead to the establishment of the Kansas Commission for the Deaf, because that's what we were doing. We were advocating for enhanced services for deaf people. So ended up in Kansas City, met my wife through that experience. I planned to stay 2 years. I'll stay in Kansas City 2 years. Ended up staying 12 years, had a wonderful experience. My 3 children were born in Kansas City. And my wife is from there. And we had a very rich experience, had the opportunity to work for Gallaudet University through the regional center. And again, it's very exciting times because it was right after, 504 had been signed. ADA wasn't yet signed, but there was a lot of civil rights activities related to advocacy. And so we were starting to see commissions for the deaf being established. We were starting to see real opportunities opening up for deaf professionals. And it was a great time. And the deaf community, through Gallaudet's workshops and training, was waking up to the need to participate in community programs and advocating for themselves, and had a wonderful experience working there in Kansas City for 12 years.
That was around
It was the 1980s. I was there. And that's when Deaf President Now happened. So that became a very, the community woke up to the deaf community, to ASL, to recognition of the deaf community as an important part of American culture and society. So it was a very exciting time to be there working in the community. We established commissions in Kansas, Missouri. We set up mental health, and it wasn't me, it was a team of people working together, but using the educational process with the deaf community to explain how, for example, to get involved in the political process, how to advocate for change. So I had the opportunity to work with leaders all over the Midwest and all over the country. Became president of the American Deafness and Rehabilitation Association for 2 years. It's a wonderful organization of professionals working with deaf and hard of hearing all over the country. I also had the honor of serving on the National Institute of Health, National Communications and Deafness Disorders Advisory Board. Was nominated by Senator Dole. So I had involvement in many things. It was a wonderful experience. I had the honor of sitting at the White House when the ADA was signed as the guest of Senator Dole, who was a very staunch supporter of disability rights and one of the sponsors of the ADA law. Around that time, we had 3 kids. We found out my oldest daughter was hard of hearing, probably very much like myself. And I was concerned about where she would grow up, the education she would have, the role models she would be exposed to. And around that time, NTID was also very enthusiastic about hiring back graduates, and interviewed and got hired and came back in 1990 and just started working here and giving back through my work. So I had the chance to teach in social work program, a chance. Yeah. Well, one of the cool things now is when I look out amongst our faculty and staff, one of the reasons I feel very, very content to be retiring now or leaving now is I look out and I say, wow, we have people like Lorianne, Gabby. I can name 10, 20, 30 alumni who are working here now in leadership roles. So I know that our commitment to excellence and inclusion will continue. And I'm just really proud. I look around, I'm not nervous. I'm looking out and saying we have a good leadership group. We have good deaf, hard of hearing, and hearing people working here, teaching here, supporting students. So the next generation of leadership will come. They're here, and they're ready, and they're experienced. And NTID will be strong and will continue its tradition of providing outstanding state-of-the-art education to students.
So I'm curious to go back a little bit because you definitely grew in your leadership roles over the years. Did you ever feel, or when did you feel that spark of, yeah, I want to lead? Or did it kind of just happen naturally that you stepped into more and more leadership roles over time? I mean, did you plan to come back and be the NTID president? Or when did that leadership start?
We both were social work majors. We didn't plan. We were committed to making a difference in the lives of people, empowering people for rights of self-determination. That's what motivated us. My wife didn't marry a president of NTID. She married a social work major, and we never expected, but the opportunities came up. And what's beautiful about NTID is we are large enough. And that was something, when I look back, I was very conscious that I had a family. I wanted to be a good dad and a good husband. I wanted to have professional growth, and I wanted to balance all of that. And here at NTID, we're very fortunate because we have so much mobility. You can do something for 5 years, have fun, learn a lot, and then you want something new, you can move over, you can move up, you can move over, you can move down if you want to, but you started out as a recruiter, I remember. And so you had the opportunity to travel all over the country and meet and see what was happening. Then you got experience and you've moved up also. And so I see that all over the college. And I think that's really cool. But for me, I was really, really concerned about my daughter. I wanted her to be exposed to role models who were professionals, so when she had aspirations, she wouldn't feel a barrier, but would feel encouraged. And she's a veterinarian now with her own practice, very successful. So, and the other thing that kind of motivates me right now, my youngest grandson, I only have one. There's 4 girls and 1 boy, but he's hard of hearing, and he got his first hearing aids, which are blue to support the Buffalo Bills. He also got into the shower recently with his hearing aids, but most of us have that experience. So I've been thinking a lot. Gary Boehm also has a deaf grandchildren. So we spend a lot of time thinking about what should NTID look like in 10 years. How do we make sure that Gary's kids go to a residential school, my grandson is mainstreamed? How do we make sure we're ready to serve both of them and make everyone feel welcome to come back? Because no one should come to NTID and not feel welcome. We are committed to welcoming and serving all, regardless of their background, their communication preference, their race, their social economic status. We're a national institute that this country, America, has invested in to serve and welcome all. So I'm really proud of the fact that this institute really is welcoming of all and respectful of all, and insists that everyone has the right to communicate and understand and become understood by others. And this is a very special place in the world. We're a model to the nation. We're a beacon, as our advertisement says. People, parents, students come here all the time, just so impressed and so amazed at how this campus welcomes all and serves all. It's not without challenges, but still, almost every week I get an email from some mother or father or grandmother or grandfather telling me how touched they were when they came to the campus and saw that their son or daughter was home. And they had that same feeling that I developed over time.
I'm curious, did you visit the campus before you decided to come? What was your first campus like, and did you know immediately you wanted to come here too?
I was a high school soccer player. So when I came here to visit senior year, it was brief. I flew in. The buildings weren't open yet. The dorm wasn't open. So people were spread all over the campus. So I didn't really have the same experience that visitors have today, where they can really see classes and see students. I met with the soccer coach, and I had a tour, but it wasn't of the building. I had a tour of the dorm, I think one of the older dorms. So I wasn't sold at that point. And then when I came, like I said, my initial reaction was more negative than positive. And it just had to do with being told you have to do something. Remember, in those days, SBP was required, and we had a curfew of 9 p.m.
Oh, wow.
And the boys and the girls' floors were separated. And there were all these rules. And I really resented those rules. I said, I don't need those. But at those days, the rules were the rules, and you followed the rules, or you didn't get accepted. And Jerry Buckley didn't like to follow the rules that way. I was a little questioning, challenging. Why are we doing it this way? Why, if you want to teach independence, why are you having curfew at 9 o'clock? Well, the theory in the past was that you need to start with strict rules, and then the floor would vote. We're going to increase to 9:15 now, and we'd have a 2-hour discussion about increasing curfew by 15 minutes. And I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. And, so there were some experiences that I just didn't feel welcome. And if you don't feel welcome, you don't belong. So it took some time for me, but it was, again, people like Betty Toney, Liz O'Brien, Mother Cell, Ertl, and some other people said, give it some time. I remember I actually had a written contract with Betty Toney during SVP. If you show up, you do this, I said, I will stay for, 72 more hours. It was negotiated. And we look back and we laugh about that now, but it's a powerful reminder to me while I've served as president that we have students from a variety of backgrounds. We have students who are Black, who come from the city, who this is their first exposure to a primarily white university setting. We have students who are Latino, who's surrounded by Latino-speaking family and friends. This is their first environment where maybe they've really, most of the time, with an English-speaking environment, white environment. We have people who maybe grew up in rural areas and haven't been exposed to the open diversity we have here. We have people who are very religious, and they've never been exposed to living with people who are not religious. And so they're all here, living, learning together, and teaching respect for one another. We have a beautiful community here. The students really respect one another. Even during the toughest discussions about Black Lives Matter or the George Floyd murder, the students really reached out to one another and sought to really keep our community united. And so I'm really proud of the students. They really care about one another.
I think also how we all really came through COVID was impressive. I, as an employee here, was very impressed with how things were handled and how people pulled together during that time. It was very challenging. It was very difficult. There were so many unknowns. And can you talk a little bit more about that time, the challenges, and how did you work with other leadership here to kind of help all of us pull through that?
Well, it was 5 years ago now. And when we look back, it just seems like yesterday, but it was 5 years ago. And remember the timing of that, I remember because I was supposed to fly out to the West Coast on a business trip, and my son texted me and said, "Don't go, he's a physician." He said, "This is really bad," and they're not being honest about how bad, so I canceled the trip. But you remember, we shut down. The students were on spring break. We asked them to expend their spring break for 1 week, and then they came back and picked up their belongings, and we sent them home. We didn't know if they would come back. We didn't know all of higher education was faced. We had a governor here in New York who said, if you open up again in the fall, if you go over 100 positive tests, you have to shut down again. So everything was very focused on making sure we did not have 100 positive tests. So we're very, very strict. And masking was required. You didn't sit down with friends and eat. You picked up your food and you brought it back to the dorm. Clubs, organizations were only meeting online. Faculty and staff were afraid to come, afraid of being exposed. They had families at home. Students, and I think it's important to emphasize, I really want to applaud the students. No one liked the masking. If you're deaf or hard of hearing, you don't like the mask. I mean, communication is tough enough, and you put the mask and it's over. So I really applaud the students because they understood the science and the medical issues, and they really cooperated. They didn't play around. They followed the rules. And together we did it, from the president all the way down to the custodians. Because remember, we set up many things instantly. The plastic, shutting off the dryers in the restrooms because we thought that might be spreading. Many things we did that were set up based on what we thought was the science at the time. So our IT really took up the safety of our students, faculty, and staff. I'm really proud of the fact that the university didn't lay anyone off in that situation. We had some people who were temporarily on temporary leaves and still collected money from other sources. But our IT really stood by the employees in supporting them and together. And there were a lot of issues. I mean, just every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, the president would call together all the senior leadership to discuss what we were facing that day, how we could keep from going over 100 positives, because if we got to 100 and we shut down, everyone would have to leave again. We set up a special hotel space specifically for positive testing. We made sure they had access to healthcare support. Of course, all of that meant we had to have interpreters scheduled to follow that and make sure things happened. Someone asked me, and then we had mandatory testing. Gerard Buckley, as you know, does not like mandatory anything. But we had mandatory testing to keep the campus safe. What would we do if the students didn't show up for tests? Do you remember? We slowed down their internet connection. Said if you want high speed, you need to show up and take the test. We did testing of, I'm trying to remember, what did we call that? Wastewater testing, every week. And so if I recall right, positive tests would show up 3 days before they became actually contagious. So what would happen is, for example, if Tower A was, if they did the test on that, then they would require, it showed up in the wastewater, then they require everyone in the dorm to come to be tested. If they tested positive, they were referred to a segregated hotel space. But we had to do that in order to remain open. And it required a tremendous amount of energy and time on the part of faculty, staff, and students. Faculty went online to teach. Overnight, they learned how to teach on Zoom. It was not easy. There were many people who said, we can't do it, but we did it. And then over the next 1 or 2 years, as we opened up again, the campus became normal. But we have to remember the students we serve now didn't have a normal high school experience. They were kind of isolated, and RIT tends to attract a particular kind of student who likes gaming, likes computers. We have to convince them to get off the computer and develop their social, personal, soft skills. So during COVID, it was not a positive experience because students were encouraged to stay on their computers and stay on their games instead of interacting. And so they didn't have that experience in high school. Then they came here, they didn't have that experience. So there were a lot of issues associated with helping students adjust and take advantage here. I mean, you and I know that 4 or 5 or whatever number of years you're here is going to be the richest social experience you're going to have in life. You're going to form lifetime friends. I still am in touch with people I went to college with 50 years ago. And you want to encourage students to take advantage of that instead of staying on the computer all night or staying on the games. And so we were successful getting through COVID and coming out of COVID and being sensitive to the fact that we still see it. Our high school students are still experiencing the negative effects of that experience. They didn't have a normal middle school. They didn't have a normal high school. And they're coming here, and sometimes some of their developmental issues are still present. So we really have to work hard to pull them out, make sure their academic needs are met, but also their personal social growth is happening.
So speaking of the challenging times, I'm curious now a little bit about your life as president every day. What are some of your favorite parts of the job? Now, what do you enjoy the most?
Students. It's the students that motivate me every day to get up and thinking about what we can do to help them be more successful. And they're beautiful people. We are so honored to serve them. And the parents who entrust us with their kids to come here. I got an email the other night from a mother in San Francisco who was really talking about, it was a mother of an Asian student. She said, I really didn't want my daughter to go all the way there. We wanted to protect her and our culture, and talking about how she was so comfortable when she left because she saw that the faculty, staff, and the administrators here really cared about her daughter and would take care of her. The students are just amazing. They come from a diverse backgrounds, and they come here and they're part of our community, and they're very open to learning and growing. They challenge us. That's good. That's healthy. Jerry challenged the administrators before. But that's good. That forces us to really be thinking about how can we do a better job? How can we help these young people get ready? You know, the world is changing very quickly with AI, and the jobs are changing suddenly. And the students need to be very, very, very flexible, creative, self-directed. They have to develop all of their skills, both technical and soft skills. And they have to assume that responsibility for their own careers, which are going to be changing. Many of us are sitting here, we don't even know what careers are going to exist in 10 years, but it's our responsibility to look ahead. And our faculty do a great job of trying to think. We have a national advisory group, we have an employer advisory group that are always coming in and telling us how to prepare for the future. AI, how's it going to impact that function, that job, and what do we have to do to really help our young people be ready to jump ahead in the career world?
We need to keep in mind always our mission. Why we're here is to prepare students for the world out there and being successful. We have many success stories that we like to share all the time, you know. But where do you see NTID maybe going in the future? What do you think we need to really focus on to keep ourselves strong and relevant as we move ahead?
That's probably a better question for the person who replaces me. But I think our core mission has served us well. And remember, every time I present, I put it up there. Provide state-of-the-art education for deaf, hard of hearing, to prepare them for competing in a rapidly changing economy and so forth. That's our mission. That's what we have to stay focused on. Continuing to welcome all students. 85% of the kids are in the mainstream now. A high percentage of them don't know deaf culture, don't know sign language. Continuing to make them feel welcome here while we continue to welcome all of our ASL users, and balancing those things. Keeping commitment to welcoming and serving all is going to be really important, because the reality is we don't decide what's happening all over the country related to deaf education. There are parents and students out there that are making those decisions. We need to be ready to serve those kids as they come and not as we want them to be. We need to give them the opportunities to make the same kind of choices you and I made many years ago about where they fit as a deaf person, what their identity is, what their communication preferences are. We need to give them that same safe space to explore their identity and to figure that out. The third thing I think is really, really important is stay focused on what's happening on the American workforce. It's changing so quickly that if we don't change quickly, the reality is when you go out on the job, there are still barriers. There are still many companies that are not yet ready to hire deaf people that don't understand. I recently had a conversation with one company where they just said, really worried about communication on the job. And I just said, in this day and age with technology, you shouldn't be worried about that. But she was, which means when she was interviewing a candidate, she was ready to exclude the deaf person for that simple reason that she wasn't comfortable. We have to continue to educate employers, bosses, and then we also have to make sure our students really have the best skills possible. One of the things I'm really proud of here is the technology we have. For classrooms, there's hands-on. last Saturday, I was at the Imagine RIT Festival. And one of the cool things, you know, that one of our goals is really to grow the number of deaf scientists because we're underrepresented in scientists. We're also significantly underrepresented in healthcare. Those are two things we've established over the last 10 years. We have to stay committed to that. But they had a mock ultrasound dummy. They had this CPR. They had a variety of human technology. And the beauty of it was that's equipment that's here. And the students get hands-on experience. And I know I'm often told by employers when I travel, one of the reasons they hire our graduates is because they have hands-on experience with high technology. They know how to manage it. They know how to deal with it. If something breaks down, they often know how to fix it. And we have to make sure our students have that competitive edge because the reality is the world is very competitive. And we want our graduates to leave here with marketable skills, to earn a good living, have good lives, and make a difference in the community.
You yourself, as an alum of the first alumni president, also, what did that mean to you? Coming back here as president, yourself being a graduate and alum of our program, I mean, that's a really special thing. What significance does that have to you, knowing that you're a product of NTID and you're bringing that back here?
It's a way of giving back. Many of us who come to work here don't do it for financial reasons. We do it because we deeply appreciate the experience we had here. It made a difference in our lives, and we want to see some other student in the future have the benefit. The most fun and powerful experience I have is when I travel, and especially internationally, whether it's in China or Russia, and I speak to deaf students. I'm supposed to go to Saudi Arabia soon, and I asked to meet with deaf students specifically. And I always finish my presentation by saying, one of you one day will replace me or replace the person who's leader of this organization. We want young deaf people to have the highest aspirations. We want them to know if they work hard, they study hard, success will follow. When students come to my office and they're sitting down, and I'm saying, you know, a long time ago I sat over there arguing with administrators, and I said, now you're sitting there, and I hope one day you'll think about sitting here. And we need to be encouraging our students. We need to be lifting them up. The world is so negative right now. And there's a lot of negative vibes out there. We need to remind them there are opportunities. This is a great country. America really is a great country. It established NTID in 1965, nearly 60 years ago. And since that time, we have 11,000 deaf people graduate from here. And when I look, we have one of our students is graduating, Ellie Warren. She's graduating this year. She's from Ohio, very sweet, wonderful family. She's an RA in the dorm. She's a double major. She's Spanish and biomedical sciences. She's been an RA in the dorm. She's been president of the Beekeepers Association of RIT. She's also done 2 study abroads while she was a student. She's starting medical school in the fall in Syracuse, New York. And we have another student, Grace, who you know from the volleyball team, is starting dental school. Just think about that. 30, 40, remember when I said my major was social work, but there was resistance? I remember the first time I applied for a job as a social worker. It was at a deaf school. The first question they asked me, can you use the phone? When I said no, they said, but that was permissible a long time ago. And now you look at the opportunities our young deaf people have to get PhDs, to go to medical school, law school. Our students really have high aspirations. We want to encourage that. So the next generation of leaders in the deaf community will have even stronger backgrounds, will be in positions of even more influence, so that we continue to see an ongoing improvement in the social and economic status of deaf people in America. And that's really what NTID was established for, to really make a difference in the area of employment. And that's why we don't get into a lot of the other political arguments. Put that aside. We focus on providing the state-of-the-art training. These young people are going to go out and make a difference in the world, and that's our responsibility to make sure they're ready to compete and have the skills and knowledge, attitude necessary to do that.
Retirement is coming up soon. And I'm sure you've gotten so many wonderful messages from the community. You've had people popping up to congratulate you. Have there been any surprises? Have there been any fun moments or reconnecting with people from the past?
It's been amazing, the people who've reached out. I had a person I hadn't heard from in 30 years email me, a deaf professional I really respect, and just tell me how much my work meant to her, even though I've watched you, I've seen what you've done, and I want you to know you've touched a lot of lives. It was like, I didn't expect that from her. I didn't ask for it. It was totally unsolicited. The alumni board, meeting with them recently, and they gave me a beautiful mosaic picture which has 4,022 pieces, Legos. And I have to ask my grandchildren to help me put it together. But what was significant listening to them, they talked about how they appreciated the time I took to get to know each of them and listen to their journeys. Over the years, I've gone to a lot of different student banquets, events. I've always found listening helps you to understand instead of talking. It's been beautiful to hear. I've had alumni showing up. I had employers show up and just sit down and say thank you. I've had other people email me that I haven't heard from in a long time. I didn't know. And it's nice. It's rewarding to know that they understood the work that I was trying to do and why I was doing it. The employees here, I've had faculty stopping by, and again, many of these people I've taught, either in the social work program or MS or Deaf Ed program, and just sitting and talking with them and them taking the time to say thank you. I had a faculty member approach me in the hall recently and was almost crying, and she said, I can't go to your retirement party, but I want you to know we really appreciated your support. And so it's been wonderful and appreciated. This is a community, it's a community that cares for one another. We've kind of grown up together. We've students. We've had our parents with us. Our parents die. Our siblings pass away. We've lost our kids, or various challenges that happen during the human experience. And this community really comes together and supports one another. And it's just a beautiful thing. It's a community. All of this praise is not something I like or I'm comfortable with. It's just not me, and so I'm trying to stay away from it because it's really about the people here. It's not Jerry Buckley. It's the people here who make this a very special place. It's not one person. It's all of us, and I have confidence the person who replaces me will have a community. We have a leadership group that's very talented, experienced, It's diverse in gender, race, backgrounds. It's a beautiful place. Of people who really, really enjoy what they do, who are driven by their mission, but they're also trying to be good people. You're trying to be a good parent or you're taking care of your parents or whatever. And NTID is proud of the fact that we always say family first. If you have an issue at home, take care of it. We'll take care of the students. We help one another out. We have a colleague who experienced a fire recently and lost many things. Now everyone is jumping over, taking care of her duties and setting up a funding to support her. And that is so normal, so typical here. And it makes it a very special place to work and a special place to lead.
You have a tendency when we have alumni come back, you always say, welcome back home. And that's not just a line, it is true. It is true. Welcome back home, because this has really become a second home or a first home for many of us. And I think people in a workplace sometimes say we're a family, but here is where I really feel that is true. We take care of each other. And I know that you're very humble. I mean, we come from social work backgrounds. Humbleness is part of it. But you have to recognize that people here, the work together, it's the leaders that set the tone too. So I really hope you give yourself some of the credit, maybe not all of it, but some of the credit, because you really help lead and make this place what it is. For those of us that look at your role and who you are, you set the stage for that. So I really thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, but let's look back at the people who established NTID. Bob Frazino, Robert Frazino is one of my mentors. I remember one of the advices he gave me, many times I would go visit him and just sit down and ask about the history. What was it like before then? What were the challenges? What were the financial, because he had a wealth of experience here. And he said to me, make sure you leave NTID a little bit better than you found it. And secondly is don't tie the hands of the leaders who will replace you. And I've always respected that. We are all temporary stewards here. And we're given that responsibility. We're called to leadership. That's part of our journey. We do it. And then someone will replace us. And we have a responsibility to make sure that this community is in a good place for someone to do that.
You mentioned some words of advice that were given to you, but do you have words of advice for the next president? What would you recommend the next person to lead NTID?
Listen to the community. Listen to them first. Come in and listen. Spend some time really listening to the students, faculty, and staff. We have an enormous amount of experience, skill, and knowledge here. Dr. Frazina was famous for saying that no one has all the answers. When deaf people come here, they're often haven't had equal access to services growing up. So maybe their signing isn't fluent, or maybe their speech is something they want to work to improve, or maybe they want to develop a new skill, interview skills. No one has all the answers. That's why we have a team of professionals with different backgrounds and disciplines here at NTID. We have the technical faculty who teach very important technical skills. We have the communication faculty and staff who help to support students figure out how are they going to make communication work, their choices. We have employment advisors who help students prepare for interviews. No one has all of the knowledge necessary to help these young people, so we all work together and we respect one another. And that's been a hallmark here, that we welcome and respect all of the faculty and staff who work here. Doesn't mean we agree all the time. We have different perspectives on communication, disciplines, but we respect one another, with the emphasis all being on helping that young person grow to the fullest of their potential and be ready to leave here and be successful in the world of work.
It takes a village, it really does. It takes a whole village, and that's what we are. We pull together.
So next week, graduation. All these last times getting together have been a little bit emotional, and so each one's a little bit different of experience. But with the graduates, I'm going to kind of remind them, I don't remember who spoke at my graduation. I don't remember what they said, except it was something encouraging and uplifting. And I try to keep mine very short, 3 points maximum. And, I'll remind them that the American people have invested in them. The American people believe in them. And the country needs their skills and knowledge and passion. So please give back through your career, give back through your skills and knowledge, give back to the next generation of deaf students who want to come to NTID, have the same opportunities that you have. And of course, I always end by saying, you're always welcome to come back home here to NTID.
Many of them do come back and visit and pop up in your office and say hello, or come back to speak to student classes. It's a great part of working here, is seeing the students go and then come back again.
We are blessed to be able to have that experience and, and to enjoy it. My will be 36 years here have been a wonderful experience. Always knew maybe someday I would come back. I had to drag my wife here from Kansas, but after she was here, she understood why. The Rochester community is very special. We have churches, temples, a variety of things that are accessible, theater. We have multiple groups. We have young groups that do night out. We have older groups of seniors. We have biking groups. We have crochet groups. We have Deaf Women of Rochester. All of that make Rochester a beautiful community in which to live and work. And it's very special. When we try to describe that, it's fascinating to me when I travel. I wear my RIT hat, and I often have NTID. And I'm really amazed at how many people come up to me who have no connection with deafness, and they have pride in NTID being here in Rochester. They know about us. They know that Rochester is known as Sign City, and NTID is part of that picture. And so it's really kind of cool that they're proud. When I meet with members of Congress, Congressman Joe Morelli, Senator Schumer, Senator Gillibrand, they all know about us. They've been to the campus. They've interacted with our students. They care about us and our work, and they fight for us, which is really important right now, given the America right now faces a lot of tough decisions related to economic and funding issues. And I'm really proud, when I walk the halls of Congress and tell the NTID story, it's not fake, it's not a script. Someone said no, it comes from the heart. It comes from the heart. These are stories of students that we really have impacted. We made a difference in their lives, and I want members of Congress to know that, and to know what a powerful impact NTID has had, and that it's a federal investment that works.
So what I'm really curious to ask, and I know maybe a lot of people want to know, is after you finish retiring, Jerry, what are you going to do with all your time? How are you going to fill your time and keep yourself busy? And hopefully you'll come back and visit and check in on us.
The honest answer is I'm still wrestling with myself, what I want to do. I'm not retiring because, I'm feeling, just felt it was time. It was a good time now. The Institute is in a good place. We have good managers, experienced people. As I get older and older, I want to spend more time with my siblings, with my grandchildren, and right now this job requires you to travel. I'm here 3 or 4 nights a week, often for social functions. Very important. You need to be visible. The students want to see the president of NTID. RIT wants the president of NTID to be visible, interacting. It's been a wonderful 15 years of doing that, but I'd like to do something a little bit different. So I had hoped the last six months would be quiet. No real major challenges. In the election had consequences, and so we're seeing a lot of challenges. So I'm more busy than I expected. So I really haven't had time to do some of the planning, but I would like to be involved in some kind of community service. I can see myself volunteering for FEMA when a crisis happens, using my old social work skills to go in. I don't want to administrate anything. I want to go and have someone tell me, help that person, sit down, I'll help them solve their problem. After 2 or 3 weeks, I go home. So I would envision doing something to help the community. I've had a lot of organizations ask me if I'd be willing to serve, join boards, and I want to be very careful. I'm still only on 2 boards now. One is Camp Mark 7, and I stayed on that board too because it's part of my, it's the one way that I wanted to be connected with the deaf community that I felt strongly, so I continue to serve on that board. And then I'm on a board in St. Louis called Star Cloths that is very focused on disability employment. And that's partially because I'm from St. Louis and I wanted to really focus on employment of individuals with disabilities there. So I will, I'm hoping to also help. I've had some of the younger deaf community come to me and say, will you teach us some of the political skills you have? And I said, yeah. So I'm hoping I have the opportunity to do some of that, but it's time for a new generation of leaders to emerge, and those of us who are a little older to step back and support them and mentor them and guide them, but let them lead, and I'm ready to do that.
Hopefully also grab some time to relax on the lake. I understand you canoe or kayak.
I kayak, and quite honestly, I haven't even gotten the cottage open yet. I haven't, and that's on the agenda for the next couple of weeks. It's beautiful. It's an old 1950s cottage about 1 hour south of our house. And so we go down there. It's got 50 feet of waterfront, so you can sit there. It's got a beautiful, it's a smaller lake, so it's very family friendly. And I have no internet. I have no television. I have no radio down there. The phone, the text only works if you go out on the dock and you stand and you hold it. So the whole intent is kind of escape. So I'm looking forward to getting down there more often at the end of the summer when all of my travel is over and I'm formally retired. I don't plan to be around for at least a year. It's not the new president, she, he, or they needs the opportunity to lead, but I've agreed to be available to support them as they wish So I anticipate providing guidance where it's asked for.
Only last thing I have to ask you is, are there any other thoughts you want to leave with us, the community here? Anything else you want people to know?
I just want to thank all the people here at NTID. 50 years ago, I came here and found myself, and many of us have this story, found my identity, found out language, culture, even though we didn't call it that at the time, still. And that was really important for me as a person. And I want all young deaf people in America to have that experience, hopefully by coming to NTID. And all of us have a responsibility to continue to make this a very special place for young deaf people. So thank you for the many years of support that people like you and other in the community have given me, especially in the challenging times, COVID, Black Lives Matter, different times where we had to face some tough issues together. But we came together and we supported each other, and NTID is a better place now because of that.